The Hocus Pocus of the Universe. Laura Gilpin. Narrated by John Burness. The meaning. You find yourself among blind artists and deaf musicians, where the landscape is colorless, and music has only one note like a moan. Singers without voices are practicing the skills of silence. Sculptors without hands are licking the stone. Your heart, in its tower of bones, is tolling, but no one can hear. You tell yourself you don't belong here, you have no reason to stay. But on the morning you plan to leave, you discover that your feet are gone. Your legs end below your knees. Suddenly you understand your purpose in life: to crawl through the ferns and mushrooms, asking why. Spring. Very early every morning, my great aunt, still in her bathrobe and bedroom slippers, goes out into the yard to see the flowers. Slowly, taking great care with each step, she walks first to the row of azaleas by the fence, stopping for a long time at each one. Then to the camellias, which are almost gone, where she brushes away the dead flowers. Then to the dogwood, where she pulls away several strands of Spanish moss. Then to the wisteria, where she leans down to smell them. Then to the pear tree. Then to the lily bed. To the hydrangeas. To the magnolia fusata, where the petals fall loosely into her hand. And then she stops, and looking back over all of them, she nods. Finally she turns and begins the long walk back towards the house. And when she sits quietly in the rocking chair by the window, in the hem of her bathrobe is still wet with dew. The mittens my grandmother made. My grandmother made some mittens, knowing I like them better than gloves, knowing I like the way all four fingers keep each one other warm. The mittens my grandmother made. My grandmother made some mittens, knowing I like them better than gloves, knowing I like the way all four fingers keep each other warm, the way they can huddle together into a fist stand, the isolated thumb abandoning his own sweater to join the rest of the crowd. And as I wear these mittens, I think of my grandmother, her hands working like cricket legs all night, and the rocking chair thumping like a dog's tail. And I think of my grandmother, thinking of me trudging through the winter, bundled up like a bear, my feet buried in Eskimo boots, and my hands in her mittens. Overlooking the hospital garden. You had decided for me long before I was born. I was going to be a girl. I was going to be the apple of your eye. And you were there. When the nurses brought me to my mother, and you saw me for the first time, my face shining out at you, round and red, your inevitable apple. Watching my mother sleep. Hospitals at night are such deceptive places, and as I watch her sleep in this strange green light, she looks so young. And as she sleeps, her right hand opens and closes as though she is reaching for something that isn't there. At her side, the machine is keeping track of her breathing, the way the old grandfather clock kept track of time. She told me once that when I was born, she could feel my heartbeat leaving her, and for a moment there was such a terrible emptiness inside. She said she knew what it must feel like to die. Why is it one of us is always leaving or just coming back to say goodbye? Her sleep now is so quiet, it's deceiving, and between each breath is such an emptiness that every time I wonder if she died. Or is this the emptiness of my birth she's remembering? Or could it be that I'm remembering my own? Waking to find my mother in her twilight sleep, weeping because I'm gone. My grandmother's 86th birthday. The cake at my grandmother's birthday party was chocolate with white icing, which is her favorite. Although she could not blow out all the candles, she said her wish had already come true. Mother Mercy. She is the Spider-Woman of my nightmares, said to be a cross between myself, my mother, and the nun at the hospital who wrapped her black arms around me and held me. She is the one who weaves her way down the dark hall to find me, whose shadow creeps over me while I sleep, whose thin voice unwinds like a thread. She is the one who tends me with her silent hands, touches me with her dark fingers. She is the only one who hears me calling, "Help me, help me." She is the only one who really cares. Implications and Remains. Part 1. He gave me hot chocolate for breakfast and put raisins in my oatmeal. I was his princess child, but he never made any promises. Part 2. We ate watermelon on the beaches until I went away to school. He sent me extra money every month, still hoping actions speak louder than words. Part 3. I'm sure that after years of uncommunication, he thinks I have forgotten him, not knowing that I still put honey in my tea. My grandfather's garden. Every spring, my grandfather takes his hoe and spade and packages of seeds and goes into the yard to plant his garden. All summer he tends the fragile stems, watching them as a new father watches for his child's breathing, clearing the ground for them, aware of each new leaf and bud. And after a while, it is time for the asparagus to be cut and strawberries to be brought in, and beans and peppers and rhubarb fill the pantry shelves. And cucumbers and cabbages are all ready to be sliced and put in crocks of brine in the cellar, and all the green tomatoes are lined up along the kitchen windowsill. But this year things have not been growing quite as well, and even after dinner, my grandfather works in his garden, sitting between the frail tomato plants, fingering the earth, his hands pale and wrinkled, as delicate as lettuce. The Magi. There are no stars tonight, except for the flickering of streetlights on the flakes of snow. And now the house has settled under the quiet weight of evening. Upstairs, my grandfather and my nephew are sleeping side by side in the same room. Light from the open door falls between them. Each in a kind of half-sleep, they fall into each other's dreams. A child's first Christmas, an old man's last. Meanwhile, my grandmother is in the kitchen folding baby clothes, humming the old lullaby about the angel with 6 wings and eyes that never sleep. Life After Death. For Burnett, 1945 to 1971. Some of us die young because we want to know everything. Part 1. You lived too soon. If you had waited, if you had slowed down for a moment, I might have caught up with you. Instead, I was always arriving just as you were ready to leave. Our few moments together were always spent saying goodbye. But that summer, our timing was off. I arrived, but you were already gone. I looked for you among the faces at the airport, but you were not there. I walked back to the places where we used to meet, but you were not there. I've heard that when a person dies, he sees his whole life pass before him. Is that true? Did you see me in the last moment? Was I there? Part 2. The children we never had are dying inside me. Their faces are moons on dark water. They drift closer and closer, almost within reach. Their eyes float open, milk white and blind. They dream of waking. I dream of holding them asleep in my arms. I hear their heartbeats like the echo in seashells deep inside me. For a moment I could almost feel them, their feet and elbows nudging me, their small bodies turning. Now they are sinking deeper and deeper into me, holding their twisted lifelines in their hands, attached to nothing. Not even wreckage floats on the dark water. Not even the moon. Part 3. You knew your life was suicide, but it didn't stop you. You knew too much. You knew the last step would be the hardest, the one where there is nothing under your foot. You knew the rest would come easily. You knew the fall would justify the climb. You knew too much. You knew too many languages. You knew there were no words for what had to be said. You knew your bones spread over the rocks would say enough. You knew your past would always hold on to you. You knew how to let go. You knew too much, but you wanted to know everything. Part 4. The things I know, how the living go on living, and how the dead go on living with them, so that in a forest, even a dead tree casts a shadow, and the leaves fall one by one, and the branches break in the wind, and the bark peels off slowly, and the trunk cracks. Beep! Part 4. The things I know, how the living go on living, and how the dead go on living with them, so that in a forest, even a dead tree casts a shadow, and the leaves fall one by one, and the branches break in the wind, and the bark peels off slowly, and the trunk cracks, and the rain seeps in through the cracks, and the trunk falls off to the ground, and the mass covers it. And in the spring the rabbits find it, and build their nest inside, and have their young, and their young will live safely inside the dead tree, so that nothing is wasted in nature or in love. Neither the first war poem nor the last. If it is a monument, it stands alone in the middle of a town square, now deserted. The people are elsewhere, working, shopping, in school. No one gathers here anymore. The wood benches have fallen apart. No one knows how long the monument has been there. There is no plaque with any information. It is just a statue of a soldier weeping, holding his helmet in his hand. No one knows who the soldier is. No one remembers why the monument was built. He is probably not a hero. Probably no one in particular. Neither the first soldier nor the last. My great-grandmother's wristwatch. My great-grandmother's wristwatch still keeps perfect time. My mother said, as far as she can remember, it's always kept perfect time. When her grandmother had it, when her mother had it, and when she had it, but a few years ago it stopped, and none of the jewelers she took it to could fix it. They said it was too old, and they didn't have parts for it. My mother saved it for sentimental value, and it sat around the house for a couple of years. Then she gave it to me because I needed a watch, and she said I could have it if I could get it fixed. Most jewelers wouldn't even look at it. It was so old. Finally, in New York, I found a watchmaker who specialized in antiques. He cleaned and polished my great-grandmother's watch, and now it looks as good as new. He said it's a fine piece of machinery. He said it just needed some minor adjustments. He said it works perfectly. He said it should last another lifetime. Concerning the gold fountain pen sent to me by my father on my 21st birthday, with a note congratulating me on my new independence. Daddy, I am returning the pen you sent, and with it all affiliated responsibilities. I don't want to sign my own checks, leases, legal documents. I don't want to graduate this June. I don't want to get a job. I don't mind being declared a dependent. It does not make me feel inferior. I am really quite happy with my life as it is now, and I think it would be foolish to make any unnecessary changes. I do appreciate, however, your feeling of confidence in me and your faith that I'm capable of taking on these new responsibilities. And I do not mean to imply that you were mistaken about me. I simply want to explain that I think you are being a bit hasty in your judgment. There is no need to rush the future. It will come soon enough. Nor do I wish you to be offended by the fact that I am returning the pen. This gesture is not meant to imply that you are in any way inadequate as a father, or were unsuccessful at preparing me for my adult life. On the contrary, you have been an ideal father, and consequently I am happy to continue with our usual relationship. Love as always, your little girl. Hanging on. After we have been introduced, we shake hands, and we shake hands for a long time. Your hand is bigger than mine, but we learn to compensate. My hand has a tendency to get nervous and shake violently, but your hand is very reassuring. Eventually, we have a perfect handshake. Time passes and we continue shaking hands. We both feel it very natural and very beautiful, and both of us are at ease. Neither of us can remember what our hands did before they met. My hand begins to daydream about the future, about shaking hands forever and the feeling of security. Suddenly, your hand becomes cold and very limp. My hand does not understand what has happened and tries frantically to revive you. When there is no response, my hand recognizes that your hand is dead. Other hands crowd around trying to console me, but I refuse to let it go. I learn to shelter your hand to keep it warm. I learn to support your hand to keep it from slipping away. Eventually, I learn to compensate for everything. Love poem for a dead man. I return to the scene of the accident, the way a thief returns to the scene of the crime, looking for something he may have left behind. The way a detective returns to the scene of the crime, looking for answers. The way the witnesses return to the scene of the crime to refresh their memories. I return each day to the scene of the accident as though I am returning to the scene of the crime, not knowing what it was that I stole from you and not being able to return it. The field where you lost your mother. The field where you lost your mother is the same field where you lost your tricycle years ago. She told you never to play there, where you couldn't be seen above the tall grass, but the grass kept waving to you. And one day it opened and invited you inside, and you rode it on your tricycle, your fists tight on the handlebars and your feet grinding the wheels into a soft mud. And each stem moved aside as you passed by it, and each door opened just as you arrived. And when you saw the butterfly dripping down between the stalks, you had to follow, leaving your tricycle wedged into the roots of grass. And when the butterfly was gone, the field closed in around you, and the tall stems brushed against your eyes, and you tried to retrace your steps, but you couldn't find them. And for years, every day, you went back searching through the tall grass for your tricycle. So when you came home and saw your father weeping, and he told you you had lost your mother, you knew where to look for her. In the field, where you knew you would not find her. The hub of the universe. The hub of the universe is here in the laundry room, deep in the heart of the basement, where the rattles and bangs of the washing machines and the steady hum of the dryers. Here is the laundry room. Things are made clean again, the past forgotten. Here the grime of life is removed. Sheets and towels are made sweet again. The grass stains of childhood are washed away, and all the articles of living are refreshed and renewed, but not reborn. The old keep getting older. The colors fade, the whites turn gray or yellow. Frayed cuffs go on wearing away thread by thread. Buttons fall off and are lost forever. The true softness of the fabric is revealed, and the clothes, clean and innocent, are sent back into the world to be worn again. The whole truth. It's true what they say about little girls being in love with their fathers. It's true, and you don't forget. Even when you're grown and haven't been home for years, or when you look at your father, you see an old man. And it's true that no matter how happy you are now or how far away, you still dream of going back, remembering as far back as you can remember how he looked then, how lean and agile, how young. And you remember falling asleep in his lap, and you remember him sitting on the edge of your bed, reading your stories. And you remember pretending to be asleep as he stood there watching you, resting his large hand on your forehead and smoothing back your hair. And you can remember, but you can never go back again, and even if you could, it wouldn't be the same. You'd want more now. And you wouldn't be satisfied with a simple hand on the forehead, or to sit quietly on his lap. You'd want more. And you couldn't just lie there pretending to sleep. You would have to reach out and touch his forehead, and push the hair back out of his eyes. And you couldn't stop there, wanting him to lie down next to you, wanting your face next to his on the tiny pillow. But you can't go back again, so you find another man with the same agile body and a similar smile, and sleeping next to him at night, when he turns to kiss you, and you reach out to him and his whole body is next to you. You know it's true. The little girls were meant to grow up, and women were meant to fall in love, because you learn so much when you're young, and you don't forget. At the point of waking. At the point of waking, as at no other time, it is possible to hold dreams, and even then, it is only for a few seconds. The moment when you are awake enough to realize you are still asleep, and whatever dream is with you, for that one moment becomes tangible. You are able to touch it, stroke it, like a tame animal asleep in your lap, and you can feel the softness of his fur and the gradualness of his movements as he walks slowly, stretching each paw out in front of him, licking the darkness from his whiskers, before he leaps away from you, taking your warmth with him and leaving his with you. The tomb of the unborn soldier. It is a way of life for these women who go each day to the cemeteries carrying flowers and who return empty-handed. I rarely dream of Orpheus. There is no sunlight here beneath these trees. Only the shadows are mute enough to strum through my bones. Is that me? Weeping? Or is that you calling my name? Following the silence, you will find me here, wrapped in your absence as the morning is shrouded in dreams. Can you wake me, or can I persuade you to sleep? Here, where the darkness flows like a river between us, I do not know whose reflection I see, drifting backwards, nor can I tell which shore is darker. Which one of us is dead? Spring cleaning. All morning I have been pulling skeletons out of the closet, the old bones that keep me awake at night, the old faces I see in my dreams. But in the closet there are only old letters, old clothes that don't fit, boxes of souvenirs, postcards of favorite places. Dust stirs in the corners like a secret heart trying to beat again. Wreckage from an old war. I sit like a widow, sifting through it, touching the skeletons for the last time. It is spring, and time to let go of them. Let the closest billow with fresh air. And if it's true that the past is always with us, then let it be invisible as an angel. But first, I must bury these old bones. Separation. My shadow is leaving me. It has rejected my solidness. It says I am too definitive. I lack ambiguity. It is tired of my pedestrian ways. I have offered it stability, but it wants to be free, feathery, graceful as smoke, to rise and drift, to dance. Most of all, to dance, unencumbered, unrestrained by the bulk of my heaviness. I have tried to warn it of the dangers of groundlessness, but it will not listen. Poor shadow. When I walk into a forest, I will find shreds of it in all the trees. The whole of it. I am as resilient as a robin's egg falling out of the nest 20 feet above ground. My one salvation is the little boy across the street who collects odds and ends. Is here. Everything I own is here. These books, these chairs, this table. When I reach out for them, they meet my touch. They help support me. They bear up under my weight. They bend to my will. They offer me encouragement at ease in my presence in this room. None of us have to be here, and yet all of us are here. And all of us have been around long enough to know it is best to be firm and silent, and accept the way each thing fits in. My shadow. My shadow is lying on top of me like a lover, whispering sweet nothings in my ear. He devotes himself to me entirely, and day after day, but never lets me out of his sight. My shadows sleep with one eye open, the other eye is always on me. He is afraid I will slip away from him during the night, and he would die without me. He is afraid to be alone, and also he is afraid of the dark. He needs me. He begs me to stay. He knows I hate him. I hate the way he clings to me. He refuses to leave me alone. He is smudged across my life like watery, indelible ink. He is a black mark against me. If I could kill him, I would. I've tried hundreds of times, and I know it is hopeless. Always he reappears. At night he haunts me, waking me trembling and cold. And all night I feel his tears dripping down my face, and he lies awake, saying, hold me, and I lie awake, saying, I can't. The apple. You gave me your heart like a polished apple, and being young, I bite into it, letting my teeth pierce the tight skin deep into the flesh while the juices ran down between my fingers. But now I'm not sure what fruit it is that I've eaten from what tree, or why suddenly neither of us is quite as young. The dying tree. It is obvious that the tree is dying. At first, when it began to grow sideways, I thought perhaps that it was just afraid of heights. But when it began to grow more down than out, I realized that it had been taken a turn for the worse. The question is, should I put myself in a position to support this tree? I would, of course, be difficult and require a great deal of time. And I would have to withstand great extremes of heat and cold, as well as minor inconveniences of hunger, mosquitoes, and curious squirrels. It would be a full-time occupation with no time for vacations or coffee breaks. And mechanically, it would require a high degree of concentration and skill. I could stand on the top rung of the ladder, lean against the trunk, and stretch out each arm to support a limb. It would be a great sacrifice. But how do you say no to a dying tree? Souvenir. Not in bitterness, I cross your name off the list, and my name off the list, and since there were the only two names on the list, I crumple up the piece of paper and give it to you as a token of our separation together. Death. Time stops. At last it is quiet enough for me to go to sleep. Time starts again. I go on sleeping. Dust. The doctor puts his stethoscope to my forehead and bears nothing. Dead, he reports. Dead whether you know it or not. You can tell by the eyes aimed inward and breathing inaudibly still, doomed from the start. It was only a matter of time. And he pulls the sheet over my face and leaves when he's gone. I push the sheet away and open my eyes to the sterile morning. Odd to be alone in the room with a body. Look, my shroud has flowers on the cuff. I reach over to see what my hand feels like. I should have known. My hand is like ice. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I close my eyes again and pretend not to breathe. It is hopeless. Indian Giver. Crossing the desert, I met an Indian selling authentic headdresses imported from southwest Utah at special discount prices, and he wanted to sell me one, but I said I didn't have any money. But he said I could pay him by writing him a poem. But I said I really don't need a headdress, and he said he didn't really need a poem, which seemed like a fair exchange. So I scribbled something in the sand, which he couldn't understand, but he liked my handwriting, so he gave me the headdress, which turned out to be made in Japan. So we said goodbye, and I walked away with dirty fingernails and feathers coming out of my ears. Night Song. And when she woke suddenly in the empty room, crying, "Mother, Mother," the moon watching, at a distance, rose over her bed and stayed there until she was asleep. January. It is January again, and it is time to begin a new year again, because the old year is over, and it is January again. The time to begin again, and in a year, this year, will end, and it will be time to begin again, because it will be January again, but this is only the beginning. Meanwhile, the snow continues, and January goes on for an interminably long time. Body count. The corpses are laid out like cucumbers in the grocery window. 483, 484. It has taken all morning to get this far. 485. If I were dead, would I recognize my body? Would I hesitate momentarily knowing it was me? Perhaps I could identify it by the little scar on my abdomen, or a scattering of freckles in some recognizable design. Or perhaps I would just know instinct would tell me and draw me closer and closer to that one body. Perhaps I would take it in my arms like a mourning mother or a widow. Or perhaps in anger I would slash it open even more, trying to deface it beyond all recognition. Or perhaps I would hesitate just long enough and then pass quickly by, hoping no one else would notice or make any connection between it and me. Or perhaps I would not even notice at all. Perhaps my mind would be too full of numbers to take the time to look. Perhaps I would say 486 and just walk by. A fine afternoon, flying kites. They have fallen asleep with their hats on under the trees. It is cold, and their breath blooms above their mouths like white flowers, which they inhale repeatedly. They are not as young as they used to be. The kite lying beside them in the grass pulls relentlessly towards the wind the way an old dog dreams of chasing rabbits. If they wake now, it is still light enough to send the kite up one last time in a final burst of energy and freedom. If they sleep until dark, they will probably send the kite up anyway, letting it follow them home like a distant star. Two-headed calf. Tomorrow when the farm boy finds this freak of nature, they will wrap his body in newspaper and carry him to the museum. But tonight he is alive, and in the north field with his mother. It is a perfect summer evening, the moon rising over the orchard, the wind in the grass, and as he stares into the sky, there are twice as many stars as usual. The secret. There is a secret to it, how a frog egg becomes a frog. It is a secret that only frogs know, and they pass this knowledge on from generation to generation, improving it, changing it, slightly over the millions of years, but never losing the fundamental knowledge of how to become a frog. Humans now understand how this secret is handed down through the generations. All the necessary information is carried on the chromosomes of each cell of every frog, from parent to child, and to that child's children. But although humans understand how the secret is passed along, only the frogs will know what the secret is. The friends. The catalyst begins a reaction, or a chain of reactions, which may be endless, but after the first reaction, the catalyst is of no importance. 2. The catalyst has provided the energy for a reaction to occur in which the element reacting has been changed. Although originally this element may have been inert and unable to react with the other elements, because of this first initial reaction, the element has been changed and is now able to react and respond without the presence of a catalyst. The catalyst, however, begins only the initial reaction. It then has no further effect on the element. Although the reaction affects the element, the catalyst itself remains unchanged. The catalyst begins a reaction or a chain of reactions, which may be endless, but after the first reaction, the catalyst is of no importance. A toast to the alchemists. Alchemists, you were right. It is possible. We have the proof now. There are equations. If you could come back for a day, if you could conjure yourself into this chemistry classroom, if you could read the textbook or watch the professor writing the answers on the board. Alchemists, you would see that you were right, even though you didn't know about alpha and beta radiation, even though you didn't understand isotopes, you knew it was possible that some elements can change into other elements, that transmutation can occur. Alchemists, there is proof now that it is possible, although each new element, having a brief half-life, would keep changing into other things. Alchemists, you were right. You can make anything, anything. Uranium, plutonium, tellurium, mercury, copper, cobalt, platinum, silver, and gold. You can make gold, an isotope so radioactive it would sparkle before your eyes. Alchemists, you were right. It is magic. Examination. The grass is green. Do you know why? The sky is blue. Do you know why? Can you tell me what life is? You mean you don't know? You mean you only have vague ideas? What do you mean it's not important? Aren't you interested in the scientific approach to life? Wouldn't you like to prove your abstract hypothesis, to find evidence for your reasonable conclusions? Scientists explain the grass is green because of a substance called chlorophyll, from the Greek words chloral and phyll, meaning green leaf. They say the sky is blue because of reflections. Have you ever thought seriously about reflections? When you look in a mirror, do you know what you see? Move closer to it. Look into each eye like the aperture of a microscope. Can you bring it into focus? Can you identify what you see? Is it moving? Can you see it grow? Is it trying to divide? Is it empty? Is it sucking in what's around it? Is it still moving? Is it moving towards something? Is it moving away from something? Is it near the edge? Has it stopped moving? Do you know why? Is it watching you? Do you know what it sees? Can you identify what it sees? Can you ask it to describe what it sees? Can you ask it to explain its answers? Can you ask it to explain other answers? Can you ask it to explain why the grass is green? Can you understand its answer? Do you speak the same language? Snow. Each fluke of snow so separate, so distinct, yet in the morning the hillside is a solid field of white. Infinity. Infinity is what you don't understand, like the number of stars, for example. You say there is an infinite number of stars only because you haven't counted them. Better to plead infinity than ignorance. But the stars can be counted, and grains of sand can be counted, and blades of grass can be counted, flakes of snow can be counted, drops of water in the sea can be counted, molecules in the universe can be counted, atoms and electrons can be counted, photons can be counted. Only what you don't know is infinite. Egg and sperm. She waits for him in the dark tunnels of love, listening for voices. A red moon is just rising above the bloodline on the horizon. A red sun disappearing is staining the sky pink. Somewhere in the distance the sounds of waves like heavy breathing. It is a perfect night for love, but no one is there. Is this the place? Is this? Is it always waiting? She sings a few songs to herself to pass the time. What if it's too late? Who are we waiting for in these empty nights? She dozes and wakes suddenly, thinking she's heard voices, or has she only dreamed them? Someone has come to her. Someone is touching her. He leans against her and she circles him with her arms. She opens for him. He moves inside. And for that moment, they are so much a part of each other that the whole universe must readjust itself around them. Differences. Of the 6 kernels of corn I planted, only 4 sprouted, and of those 4, only 2 survived, and of those 2, 1 is taller. Seeing a dog in the rain. It is raining, and there is a dog lying in the gutter, and the gutter is filling with water because the sewer is clogged. If the dog were alive, he would be drowning, but as it is, the water is simply stroking his fur. Coming home. You wanted to come home for your favorite season, but you're too late. Only the tight fists of apples still cling to the trees. And as you stand in the backyard helping your father rake the leaves out from between the apple trees, it is almost winter. The swallows have already gathered up their shadows and moved south, and the cardinals, perched in the top branches, are listening for snow. With each stroke of the rake, you uncover more leaves, mushrooms, soft decaying apples, heaping them into the wheelbarrow like debris. Your father has kept the fire burning. You pile on more leaves, and both of you watch the smoke rise like the shadow of birds leaving. You've come home unprepared for this new season, the way a worm falls asleep beside an apple blossom and wakes up deep in the fruit.